of a democratic and social Europe. The EU elites are currently destroying any hope in Europe. Their reaction to the rising numbers of refugees and the fiscal coup reveal the moral bankruptcy of the European Union. Meanwhile, transporter networks of solidarity with refugees are rising along the Balkan route in Greece, as well as here in Berlin. A new Europe is emerging, a Europe from below. If in these days there is still hope for Europe, it is not the achievement of the elites, but only thanks to those activists of the transnational networks of solidarity with refugees. These movements also show those in favor of a retreat into the cocoon of nation-states are clearly wrong. The refugee movement underlines the necessity of transnational cooperation. National sovereignty is no excuse for ignoring human rights. The refugee question also makes clear that the idea of a single national approach towards key human questions is an illusion. Nationalism and the invocation of the so-called good old times are not future models. Neither the Europe of austerity nor the return to national borders are worth striving for. This is a quarrel between a bad present and a sad past. There is nothing to be gained for the friends of radical democracy in this quarrel. On the contrary, we need more Europe rather than less to face the great questions of humanity. But this Europe does need a fresh start to become solidary, democratic, and boundless. This fresh start begins with a clear cut with neoliberalism. We want a social Europe, a Europe for everyone. Therefore, we do need a plan C. One part of that could be a social union citizenship. A social union citizenship as the material expression of the idea of real democracy. Thus, as a first step, a basic income is needed that is oriented on national poverty levels, not as a handout that is mercifully granted, but as a fundamental right in force in every country, a fundamental right valid for everyone living in the European Union, a social safety net for all. Dear friends, we do need a new understanding of democracy, since democracy is not a state, but a process towards self-government. That means democracy has to be returned to the people and taken away from the backroom of technocratic politics. Those affected by decisions should have the right to influence those decisions. Environmental refugees, for example, make evident the democratic deficit of our current world order. People fleeing their countries, affected by climate change, have no say. They cannot influence the economic politics that directly affect their lives. That shows that democracy taking itself seriously has to be transboundary. The demos cannot be a national one anymore. Our hopes lie in the critical public, because in recent years, many have raised their voices in Europe, in welcome initiatives, in rallies and climate fights, on the squares of Athens and in Madrid, in student demonstrations and strikes. Just by their actions, they said no to a further so. No to a further so that used to be a permanent crisis, long before the current crisis. Dear friends, the Summer of Solidarity has pointed out what can happen when national boundaries vaporize in a unifying solidarity. When people from political parties, activists and colleagues from unions come together to make clear we can transform Europe and make it different. Solidary, democratic, unbounded. We should think about how to grasp this opportunity. Maybe in a wild referendum. A wild referendum regarding the future direction of Europe. A wild referendum regarding the alternative, austerity or real democracy. Of course, there will be no guarantee. We could stand to lose, but we surely will if we stand still. So the decision is the following. Either transforming into a transnational democracy or organized barbarity. Either permanent crisis and ecological breakdown or a fresh start for Europe. So, what we are waiting for now is the time to get going. Thank you.